what would make you more interested in Canadian politics?
Wow. That's a great question. Because I follow American politics more than Canadian politics. I think in part because it's sort of merchandised to us like a sport. And there's this binary, it's very easy to understand. There's one party and the other. Canadian politics. I guess I'd like to see some more firebrand politicians that a bunch of people are interested in. It can be a little frustrating to have candidates sort of provided for you. And I'd love to see a candidate who came from the masses, can invigorate the masses, and not someone that I feel like suits are picking for us.
Basically, more information out there on what's happening, what are the things they're working on currently, what is the things most money spent on, all that, just to know more.
What would make me more interested is if the members of the federal cabinet played a greater role than they have played recently, and I mean in the last 10 years. When I was younger, I knew the names of everyone in the cabinet. Now I don't know who serves in the cabinet because all the decisions are made inside the Prime Minister's office, and that's been happening for some time.
Pretty much everything. Right now, the Conservative leadership race, not quite certain that Poilievre is good news for this country, but we'll see how it turns out.
I force myself to be mildly interested in Canadian politics. I guess the most interesting thing would be if people would ask politicians questions that they could easily answer instead of asking them difficult questions that are nearly impossible to answer.
Like with the pandemic, I think there's a lot of questions people had about, when are we going to get the vaccine and when are things opening up, and having some more info of a rough plan. It kind of felt like we were in the dark a bit. So maybe feeling like you're a little less in the dark and getting more information, maybe make me feel a little more engaged.
Well, I myself am very interested in Canadian politics. What would make it more interesting? I think if we had an American tinge to it, but then things would get complicated. Better the way we are.
If there was more transparency, if I could actually see exactly how the money's spent, where it's going. I find that we're constantly being told, about all this money, and it's our money, it's taxpayers' money, but we don't actually know exactly where it's going or how much things cost. It would be nice to know, I think.
I feel like I'm pretty well informed in certain Canadian politics, so for me, I'm already, caught up. But if we're trying to get an audience of other people, just, transparency, I think, would make a big difference. So
hearing more true things rather than the kind of speech that we're currently listening to.
I think better leadership. Better articulation of policy. I think it feels like so many Canadians are voting for the least troublesome person more often than not, and we're not voting for policies that we want to see enacted. We're voting for personalities, and I'd like to see better leadership.
To be honest, a lot of focus on social services, and just if I see the government investing in a lot more social services, I'm going to be paying attention and investing my time and energy in the politics.
Maybe if it was more targeted towards young people my age in the news and stuff, just because I feel like it's always targeted more towards older generations. But recently with social media and stuff, I do see myself getting more involved as well, because I know that people my age are talking about it.
Better politicians, not the old guard. We need some fresh blood. And we don't seem to have it in this country. And when you look, in even in the States, and you look, it's all the old guard. We need some fresh blood, some more excitement in politics, which would, I think, get everybody else involved in it. Right now, it's just the same old, same old.
I just think more appealing candidates. If I like the candidates more, for example, this past election, I wasn't really enthused with anybody. And so it took a lot for me to go out and vote. It was almost like a protest vote. So I'd like to see better candidates, more appealing candidates.
The thing that annoys me about politics or politicians is that they're so negative towards each other and they always put each other down.
Don't care for the mudslinging.
Instead of doing that, why don't they say what they can do to improve things and say it instead of pointing fingers and say what they did wrong, the other person did wrong. That's what I don't like about politics, and that's what turns me off of it.
Probably politicians that are a little bit less partisan, because right now most of them seem to always agree with their, the standard, the political party's stance on a particular issue. I'd like to see more free votes in the House, if I'm being honest, so that the actual MPs can vote in favor of what their constituents want, rather than the party wants. So a little bit more freedom in the House.
Talking about real issues, things that people really want changed. Otherwise it's just hearsay and blah, 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 more blah, which seems to be the thing that happens over and over and over. It doesn't matter who's in charge.